Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. Today, welcome a special guest and another bloke out of the UK. We got Dave Eastman, aka
Woo!
Flames. Woo woo! How you
Woo!
doing today, brother?
I'm good. I'm in the UK, but I was born in America, so it's good to hear an American accent for once.
All right. I guess when I saw your profile pic at first, I think like, wait, that's a businessman. I don't know. Is this a question first? So,
We all have to pay the bills, right? We try.
I mean, we had to be like the Clark Kents in a way. We need the one job doing this, and then the other one pays for the other one. So,
Yeah. I haven't invited my employees to many gigs yet. It's probably better they don't know.
I guess. But I guess nonetheless, how you been recently? What's new with the band?
Really well. We just found out that we'll be releasing our first album with Subjangle Records. We just found out this week, so we'll release that on Valentine's Day. So really, really excited about that.
Subjangle Records. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think so. That's how it's spelled anyway.
I mean, hey, whatever works. You got a record company. That's all that matters. So, all right.
Yeah, and he's a really nice guy, the founder of it. And yeah, if you check out Subjangle on Bandcamp, they have really cool bands. Very hip. So we're glad to be a part of that. So our first album will be called Same Time Next Year, and we've already had 2 singles off of it, which I sent you.
I didn't see him. And actually, before hopping on here, I had to listen to him real quick. So, hey. And actually, last night, I had to deal with going to a concert too, which actually was some alternative groups I grew up listening to a good bit. So I was actually pretty excited about that. So, sorry I come across a little tired, but we're hanging in there. So,
Which bands was it?
two of them I actually not heard about, but they were Arm's Length and Split Chain. Actually, Split Chain is actually out of the UK from the Bristol area.
Mm-hmm.
And the other two I listened to a good bit was Thursday, and then the main act was Silverstein.
Ah, okay. I don't know any of those bands. Silverstein's a good name though.
Oh yeah, I think it was the name of an author, but Canadian
Yeah,
author because
exactly.
they hail from Canada. So
Where the sidewalk ends. It's like classic children's poetry. Yeah, it was very funny, very surreal.
that explains a lot. Okay, all right too.
Yeah.
But actually, we'll dive into more of your story, especially how you moved out to London there in a little bit here too. But nonetheless, Dave, welcome to my podcast here, mate. And the way it's going to work is I'm going to ask you some questions. Let's get to know the man behind the music, as well as who he is as an individual as well here too. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So I guess let's start at the beginning right here too. So, who are you? I guess how'd you become a musician?
Yeah, I'm Dave Eastman. I'm a singer and songwriter for the band The Open Flames, based out of London, and very excited that our first album is going to come out on Valentine's Day with Subjangle Records. It's called Same Time Next Year, and it's been a really exciting recording process. We called it Same Time Next Year because we recorded about every 6 months, and it was with an old friend who was in the band, Harvey Danger, who had the song Flagpole Sitta. So he's been through the whole thing, been famous, been on the other side, and knows studios in and out. So it was really funny to go in the studio, and he was talking a whole language with the producer I didn't even know. I would just sit in the back and watch him do it. So I always tell people I was like the script writer for the play. I handed over my script, and then the director and the actors just took it forward and made magic out of it.
I guess what role are you in the band? Are you the front man? I guess do you play a guitar or anything?
I do. Yeah, I guess front man, but I mean we're really a band in that everybody contributes equally. Frankly, I'm the worst musician in the band, so they know what they're doing. I just write songs, and I'll send them out on WhatsApp to them, and if they respond within 5 minutes, it means it's a go. And if they don't, if it's radio silence, that just means please don't send it again. So so there have been a couple. A lot of the songs that are on the album were songs that they responded within 4 minutes, and ones that are not on the album just faded away. So yeah. So and then Evan's the drummer. His partner Paige, they're in a band together actually called Sleepy Kitty, which is originally from St. Louis. Now they're in New York and Paris. And the bass player was someone I knew from London. So we got together, and there are many places to play in London, so it was very easy to get together.
as I do tell. I've been there twice. And I don't think I even covered half of what
Oh
that city's like. So
man, I mean, there aren't as many venues and not as many independent venues as there were before COVID. But still, I mean, on any given night, I mean, I can't tell you how many bands are playing. Um, it's and all different kinds, and even it's like south of London. There's like a whole rap scene, and I live in near Camden, which is kind of the rock and roll area where the Libertines came from, and Amy Winehouse, and all the Brit pop bands, and I mean, it's just such a diversity.
that's pretty cool. And I guess
Yeah.
so. What made you move out to London? I guess was this a strictly more job or was it something else?
I did it by way of moving to Europe. My wife's Italian, and we moved to Switzerland. And we were in the French part, and I don't speak a lot of French, so it was very hard to be funny in French. And it was beautiful, but it was a little bit like having a beautiful girlfriend, and you just can't figure out why you're not in love with her. Like, she's gorgeous, everything she's supposed to be, but I just don't love her. Switzerland was a lot like that. So I went to London for one weekend, and I was talking to everybody. I was talking to the ticket guy at the train station for like a half hour, and he was funny. So we decided to move to London and to Camden, we used to live in Hollywood, so East Hollywood. So it was basically like moving back to Hollywood before the fires.
Because you needed to work on your kissing a little bit more there, mate. So
Yeah.
you know what? I always heard like Switzerland. They're always like saying like Switzerland, Denmark, like all the other Scandinavian countries are like happy places to live. Like that's what they
Yeah.
would say. But like, imagine the language barrier is probably like the hardest hurdle to probably get over first.
Yeah, and also Switzerland. It's this little island in the middle of Europe, and they really have their own ways of doing things. I mean, they're always surrounded by mountains, so they have their own language, and they have really strict rules. So you can't recycle on Sundays. You can't use the toilet after 10 p.m. Um, you have to have a really quiet vacuum cleaner, or someone will make a complaint. So it's harder to move. It's harder to move out of Switzerland than it is to move there, because you have to deregister with the government about 8 different departments. So they control every. I once accidentally didn't pay for gas at a gas station, and somehow they tracked me down to my job and called me out of the blue to say, "Are you the owner of this car?" Because yeah. Well, you didn't pay your gas on November 17th, and you owe 17 francs. I mean, like, the systems there are insane. So London's a lot more fun.
That explains a lot. So
Yes. You're not going to start a lot of bands in Switzerland. It's not going to be easy, you know.
I guess that explains the Swiss cheese why they have so many holes in it. To be honest, there too. So they're missing some key components right there, such as like the
Yes,
soul.
missing some key components. Yeah, freedom, expression. Yeah, it was nice, but only for a while.
It's just good to go and visit. I'll just do that.
It is. No, it is. I mean, like, 3 days in Switzerland, and you can't beat it. Especially if you want to go, to the top of the mountains, and yeah, that's great.
The Swiss Alps coming down off the Rhine and all that stuff.
Oh
So
man.
yeah,
I mean, the some areas they don't even have cars; they just have electric cars. So you go up to the mountains, and it's completely silent, and which of course makes sense. But it's beautiful, yeah, and the skiing and snowshoeing. We took our daughter to Paris after she was growing up in Geneva. She was about two years old. Took her to Paris, and she pointed at a cigarette butt on the ground, and she said, "Daddy, what's that?" And I said, "That's trash, honey. Someone left some trash on the sidewalk." Oh, she'd never seen that before.
well, we can certainly take their clean habits. That'd be another thing for the states to take up next. So,
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah. Actually, how was Geneva? I guess were you there a good bit too, or is that where you lived like briefly?
Yeah, Geneva is it's a lake, and it's where all the watchmakers were. It's where all the banks are. It's like you see in every James Bond movie or something like that. There's always like some bank with a secret bank account. So you have this feeling that there's more going on there than you know about. and it's real quiet, and everyone's very wealthy. Our first night when we moved there, I actually was worried we wouldn't have enough money because we went for Chinese food. We had fried rice, and it was $20 for one plate. I thought, I don't think we're gonna make it. I think we're gonna starve here. We're so yeah, it's really expensive.
Because that explains why I need to get out of here. That's right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
all right.
exactly. Yeah,
All right. Good to see you made it to London there, mate. So, all
we
right.
made it. We made it. We made it out. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to remember where Camden was because no, I was trying to remember my recent trip because I actually came from Scotland and then London was
Oh,
like the
nice.
last leg of the trip right there.
Yeah.
So, and then I was trying to remember because we actually took a boat up the Thames River right there. And I forget
Oh,
what
nice.
town that was. Has a giant like makeshift boat that was like used way back then in the day for their navy.
Yeah.
I remember it was that, and then there's also where the astronomy, I guess, where they really did the astronomy way back in the day. And now it's more like a museum. I
Oh,
forget
okay.
what town
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's on the southern side of the river. Yeah. That's nice. Yeah. Now you can take Uber boats on the Thames. If you miss your taxi, you can take an Uber boat.
We got the Uber boat now. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And actually, I forgot to ask this earlier, but I guess was it your parents that kind of inspired you to take up an instrument, or was it just something you saw one day?
Uh, when I was a little kid, I saw Johnny Cash on TV, and I picked up a tennis racket, and I was trying to stand how he's standing and play the tennis racket the way he was playing the guitar. And I think that was kind of the beginning of it. Um, yeah, as a kid, I always loved music, and my dad loved music, and he was a great dancer. He was a famous dancer on the floor. You know, nobody could dance like my dad, and he loved Motown and old rock and roll. So I think that definitely got into me. But I think also my mom was an actress, so and playwright. So I think probably that storytelling and performing element was really big for me. And like I said, my friend, the drummer, he and I were in high school together. We were in our first band together, and then went our separate ways, and then got back together to form the Open Flames. So I think we had an influence on each other. I actually he tells the story that I took all our friends and I said, okay, you're going to play this, you're going to play that, and there wasn't an instrument left over for him, and so he was given a Casio keyboard. Um, but he went on to learn drums and then do really well with his band. So it's really cool to be honest, he's one of my favorite drummers. I mean, that Harvey Danger song, his drum part is half the song, I think. So yeah.
Was I tell me you try to do the Elvis Presley moves next afterwards after seeing Johnny Cash?
That would be impressive. Yeah, yeah, that would be. No, I've been known to get a bit Mick Jaggery, Johnny Rottenish. I usually lose about we would say here about 2 kilos per performance. So, sometimes I try and do the James Brown thing where I collapse, And during one show, the bass player actually looked over at me like, are you okay?" But it was just part of the show. So
I'm dressed in sweats. That's the thing.
sweat,
I get my workout in.
sweating. Yes, steam. Yeah, exactly.
I don't need no gym. This is the gym. So,
It's true though, especially if you're playing in a dank pub basement. It's already going to be pretty warm with lights and whatnot.
there's no ventilation in here, man. So
How much?
yeah, I think I did hear about that too. I think that was also the problem during the summertime because I guess the houses in London were not
Yeah,
very well ventilated or
yeah,
along those lines.
yeah,
Unfortunately, it made your house maybe like a sauna or something.
yeah. No, I mean they never needed it. So, I mean, you might have rich people who have it, but yeah, you open the window and I think it was hard for people during COVID because they were stuck in, especially young people living with roommates. They were stuck in an apartment with one table and everybody's working from home, at the same table. I think that was a long year because we really had a lockdown. You could not go outside your house. The only times you could go out was for a limited time for shopping, and to walk your dog. That was it. So every Thursday night, we were allowed to open the windows and applaud the National Health Service, the doctors. And so every Thursday night, 8 p.m., the windows would all open and we would all kind of see each other again. They're other human beings. And then the windows would close and that was it.
That probably was rough. But I guess while we're on that topic here too, I guess how bad was COVID for you? Because you had moved to London when?
Yeah. Well, it was bad for everybody here because a lot of bands died hard deaths and a lot of venues died. They just could not. And actually, even famous British West End theater, London West End theater, really struggled to come back. And so now, even the theater, like we saw Shakespeare last week, we saw Sigourney Weaver from Alien in a Shakespeare play because they're trying so hard to get people into the theaters that they're bringing Hollywood stars to play Shakespeare, which works and doesn't work. Didn't get good reviews, but yeah, it was. I think the one thing that was good about the UK was because there was a true lockdown. I think, and because they did do the vaccination campaign pretty early and made it mandatory, I think they did get a handle on it. I don't hear of very infrequently of someone getting COVID now in the UK, while I still hear about it in the US. So, for better or worse, I think that their approach was effective, but it did kill a lot of bands. It killed my last band before COVID. Yeah, so it is harder now to find a really independent venue that's really supportive. They are out there, but a place that doesn't demand that you bring 40 people to a show or pay to play. Those are rare.
I see. Actually, a good place is actually up in Sheffield. Actually, there's a couple guys. They're part of this little punk group called Luddites or Luddites. I'm not too sure how they pronounce it in the UK. So, strongly recommend you check it out. It's a Luddites, and they put UK at the end, I guess, just to differentiate themselves.
That's good to know because I have a radio show also on Eardrum Buzz Radio. So I'm always looking for good UK bands to reach out to and play. So I'll look them up.
I mean, you got plenty. I've interviewed a good number of people out of the UK already here too.
Really?
So
all right.
I'm taking over slowly.
Yeah.
All right. And I guess were you and your family okay? I guess did you guys get COVID at all?
Yeah, we were lucky. And I travel right after the COVID lockdown ended. I do a lot of international travel for my work. So I was in Sudan. I was in countries where you would think that you would have gotten it, and we never did. We were really lucky. So yeah, my whole family was fine. Thanks for asking. What about you?
Well, I went 2 3/4 of a year without getting it, or maybe it was just like subtle signs, but it was very mild. But then I really got hit hard after I went to Nashville for a little bit.
Oh.
So, hey, that's why I was way bar hopping on Broadway, as I say.
Oh yeah,
so. Actually, my dad got it first. My dad got it first, then he passed it on to me, and then I was kind of bedridden to say the least. Fortunately, I was still working from home, so. But all good. So it was an experience, to say the least.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of people would argue that the working from home part was probably the best part. Well, mainly if you're an introvert, to be honest. So.
Yeah, you can spend. I actually think they should give a Nobel Prize to Netflix. I think they probably saved the lives of a lot of people from going nuts.
I think they should give a posthumous award for anyone who created the television, to be honest. So, I mean, really, you had a bunch of streaming services too. So, I mean, it was Netflix, then it was like Paramount and all those other guys. So,
yeah, right. Yeah. Are you finding from COVID that there are a lot more kind of during COVID, post-COVID bands that because they started sitting around songwriting, now there's a kind of a different wave of people releasing recorded music rather than kind of touring bands?
I would say yes, and maybe some no, but I think it was after they had to lift all the restrictions and everything.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who at least were able to keep their bands, or let alone were able to produce their own music.
Yeah.
It was basically doing like a whole bunch of recordings and then putting it up on like say Spotify and all those other streaming platforms
Yeah.
to see where it went.
Yeah.
But I guess depending on what state you lived in and depending on how strict the restrictions were,
Mm-hmm.
it was a little tough. So I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes bands broke up, like you said. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see where Spotify goes. It's a hard place. You post and you hope, and but I'm really excited. We're going to release on Bandcamp, and I find that it's a lot easier, and you actually get money out of it. And um, yeah, I'm pretty excited. We'll be on Spotify, but I just find that the competition's really tough on Spotify. I mean, you got to fight, you know.
that's for sure. And I'll get to that in just a second here too. But first off, good to see you and the family are doing okay. They're right there, mate. So good to have you along here for the ride, Dave.
Thank you.
And I did jump ahead, but actually I wanted to talk about the Open Flames real quick too. So
Yes,
I guess
sir.
was this born because of COVID? Because I know you talked about a band that was killed because of it.
I think it formed during COVID because I wrote a song and sent a track to Evan, the drummer, and he and Paige recorded on it, and we realized, oh, this is kind of fun. And then it wasn't the Open Flames yet. We just realized, oh, this is something kind of cool here. So that's the first song that was recorded for the album. And then actually they came to visit me in London, and we spent a couple days in the studio, and that turned out really great. And then we kept doing it, kept getting together about every 6 months. So um, it wasn't intentional at all. It just kind of grew, and the more that we got together, and the more time we spent on each song, I think we realized that it was a great collaboration because we're all so different. Paige's guitar playing is very uh, lot of effects and very creative. She doesn't play, a blues solo. She will sing a solo to herself because she's a great vocalist. She has a beautiful voice, and then she'll figure out what that was on the guitar, and then she'll play that melody on her guitar or that effect on her guitar, or she'll think, oh, that sounds like that should have trombones there, and she'll find like a way to make a trombone part on her guitar. So she does really cool stuff to add to kind of the bare bones of what I thought of as a story and a structure. And then, the drummer and the bass player are fantastic at finding a groove and emphasizing the story without stomping on it. So I think we just found out, hey, this kind of works pretty well.
I guess his idea was the Open Flames because I guess was it.
That was Evan. Yeah, it was Evan. I won't say the condition we were in, but I think it had to do with fire. And he just kind of turned to me and said, what about I think also because Drop a Coin, that song, the second half of it, you're flying over, the landscape of hell. And I think we were kind of in the mood of thinking about open flames as people are suffering in this kind of Dante-esque inferno. But it kind of suits because we realized the first song, Drop a Coin, you're going kind of through this Dante-esque hell. And then the second single we released is about trying to help someone in kind of this purgatory of, they don't want help, you're trying to help them. And then now the new single that we're going to release with the album is Falling Up, which is really like the third part of Dante's Inferno of the Paradise, rising up, the ascension. So it kind of worked out, the whole name and the way the singles worked out.
Does it Dante's Inferno? Does it cover like all the 9 circles of hell? Is that how it goes?
That's it. Yeah. If you look on YouTube, there's a great old silent film version of Dante's Inferno. It's really, really cool.
Is it one of those old black and white ones, or ones that they bring up the subtitles afterwards?
Yeah. But the special effects are actually pretty good for, I don't know what year it's from, the 20s maybe, but pretty impressive.
I know that's what I got Aspera to, because I know they did a remake of it not too long ago,
right?
which
I
guess did pretty well.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, I still like the old one. Yeah. So it just kind of grew, and we got about 10 songs in the bank to record again. So I think this will continue, especially now that had this relationship with Subjangle. I think onwards and upwards.
That's for sure. I guess how'd you meet Subjangle? Was it one of your bandmates kind of reached out to them, or was it just luck of the draw?
It was me. I'm extremely stubborn, and you just got to keep reaching out. And it was a nice fit. I think, like I said, their music is really hip and interesting. And I think, and he also, I found them, Darren Lee, because he actually has a blog where he reviews music. That's how I found him, was through kind of the blogiverse. And then realized that he also had a label as well. And so he, has great taste, if I can say. And so it was very nice to link up with someone that I would be proud to be associated with.
He has to be humble right here, because if he finds out about this interview, he's gonna probably drop you guys.
well, things happen. I was in a band in Hollywood, and we got signed to a label, and sadly, one of the owners got cancer and died, and they dropped us just as we were about to open for Blink 182. So things happen. Nothing is certain. Evan actually always tells me, says, let's just have fun, because you do not know what's coming tomorrow. And with music, but I think it's just a good way to approach the whole thing.
I was like, oh man, that must have been such a kick in the rear end. So
it's Hollywood, man. I mean, you don't take anything for granted.
Sadly, I mean, that's why we always rip on them pretty good, to be honest. So, I mean, I'm real sorry to hear that too. I guess I was just going to work out with Blink 182, because now I'm interested. I guess was one of your managers?
Be some festival in Hawaii. We were supposed to fly out there, and you know how these things are, and get clear your calendar kind of thing, and then find out a week later, well, actually, it's not going to work out.
It's almost like, well,
I mean, what can we say? There were two brothers. It was really sad. It was two brothers, and one of them was very, very sick, so we couldn't really say anything.
Yes, not all seriousness. May he rest in peace.
So, yeah, right. Yeah.
All right. But I guess, since you were talking about Dante's Inferno right here, is this kind of the role you're kind of rolling with in terms of lyric-wise? Kind of going along those lines, or are you going to try to branch out maybe to some other mythological stuff?
It's not intentional at all. I think that, I mean, the first song, yeah, it's a bit Dungeons and Dragons-y, but the second song is definitely a personal experience with my father being ill. And the third song is just, I fly a lot with a lot of turbulence in very small planes through dust storms and over very, dodgy landscapes. And so I think a lot about plane crashes. So the song is about that, but it kind of it's a bit inspired by Radiohead, because I found that whenever you're in really bad turbulence, playing like mid to early Radiohead is very, very good music for when you're in extreme turbulence, because of that kind of that detached tone of his lyrics and his singing can kind of calm you down. So there's no theme to the lyrics, but a lot of it are little snippets. My wife is Italian, so she'll say a little malapropism, and I'll be like, oh, that's really, that's funny. So I'll quickly write it down, or I'll just be walking down the street and a whole song. I was in the hot tub, and a whole song came to me, and I was like, it kind of sucks. I had to get out of the hot tub. I was just relaxing, but there's no pattern to it. Songs just come.
Let's say I think Rime and the Ancient Mariner would be probably going for you guys next.
All right, I actually did write a song about guys in a after a shipwreck. So you're way ahead of me, man. Yeah, it's coming. Yeah.
Got to wear the albatross around their neck next.
Yeah, so. yeah. And it's basically about three guys in a boat, and what this guy does. It's kind of a life of Pi, like what he does to survive. But what is it worth it? That's
our deal. Then we start getting existential afterwards.
Right?
We play a game with death next. They'll flip a coin. How many people are going to die? So that whole deal.
Oof, yeah.
Scary stuff. So
yeah.
Actually, I say it because I did see Iron Maiden. They didn't play that song live. I know it was like the last song from their Power Slave album. So
Wow, that's awesome.
A much more toned down version, or at least one that we can easily understand, since it's written like this old English style.
Yeah, for the, for the American crowd. Yeah,
Yeah, the Americans don't really understand you Shakespearean, and they're
yeah, yeah.
actually, who was the author who wrote Rime of the Ancient Mariner?
Now you're quizzing me. Oh man, I don't know. I don't want to guess. It's not Tennyson, so not. See, you got me on my phone. I can't look it up. You'll have to Google it. Yeah,
We just have to Google know it later. So,
yeah, exactly. That's a
right.
good idea, though. Yeah,
Right. If anyone sees this interview, let us know in the comments who the author was. We'll see
yeah.
about
Put
that.
it in the comment below, right? Who wrote Rime of the Ancient Mariner? First one who writes, first one who answers gets a free CD. How about that?
That'd be nice. We'll see what
Okay.
happens. All right. Sounds good, though. Just real quick, who was really like a big influence, I guess, in terms of your play style and everything else?
I love Liz Phair. Her first album, Exile in Guyville. Um, I mean, I think for all of us, Velvet Underground, the way they tell stories, the Beatles, the harmonies. Um, you could argue that Sonic Youth was really big for like the sound effects and stuff that we do. Um, I'm actually going to go see the Bob Dylan movie tonight with that cute boy. So I love Bob Dylan. I'm listening to him a lot. So yeah, but if anybody has not listened to Liz Phair, just please do it. Her lyrics are great.
I would say for this Bob Dylan movie, I'm curious if he did Tangled Up in Blue at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's supposed to be like his early like Free Will in time or something, maybe up to the Electric. I don't know. His young days. Um, so maybe before all that, before the motorcycle, probably. Maybe that's the big end. Maybe it's like a Lawrence of Arabia, like a big motorcycle ending or something.
Maybe. Actually, I was trying to think of the one song that was almost like, I want to say it was like a rap sort of style because like how fast like he was singing. It was like one of those ones like, you have to keep up, otherwise you're gonna lose your place. So
I was in the basement mixing up the medicine. That one.
I
Up
think
Train
that,
Hawk Blues.
I think that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember what it
yeah.
was. So
It is super fast. It's true. That whole album is just basically he like packed as many words as he could, into, into as many songs as he could.
fit on one page. So
Yeah, exactly.
so
Yeah.
we got
There's a
investigator
great
though.
band, another London band that you should know about. It's called Skinny Lister, Lister. They do with something called shanty punk, and their live shows are legendary. It's just a big pub party, and wild, and adoring fans. But Skinny Lister, definitely check them out. On Deptford Broadway is a great album.
I'll say shanty punk. I mean, I
Yeah,
was
shanty punk. Yeah, it's like this kind of like sea shanty punk. Like it has that a vibe, like you're on the beach or you're in a pub. It really has a vibe to it.
I mean, the way you kind of describe it there, it's almost like Beach Boys meets the Sex Pistols and they have a kid. So
If it were gray and raining, yes, yeah, yeah.
that's totally a bad day on the beach. So
Yeah, exactly. That's all we have here. So yeah, we don't have beach days.
I would say, yeah. Well, at least just from like the TV shows, I would say you guys didn't really have much of a beach. There's more like those pebbles or rocks
Yeah,
or that sort of deal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's worse than a sandbox. Yeah. So, but good place to get some fish and chips, I guess. Yeah.
Fish and chips. Yay. So
Chippy.
chippy. All right. Actually, also with the peas too, because it seems like you guys
Yeah.
always include the peas. So
Yeah. My wife made bangers and mash today for lunch. That was nice.
bangers and mash.
Yeah. She uses Keith Richards' recipe actually from the back of his autobiography. She follows his recipe.
Hmm. I actually didn't know about that. I didn't know he actually wrote anything about cooking, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
I know he did his autobiography about his life there too. I think it was one of the interviews where he said he had to snort his dad's ashes because he was just that desperate.
Yeah. Yeah, supposedly he did. Yeah, no, the book's actually good. I mean, as people say, it's amazing how much he remembers. So he's quite a storyteller.
Do tell. So
Yeah.
So I guess moving on to the gear, I guess what do you guys have to make the magic happen?
So uh, both Paige and I play tellies. I also play a Gibson 335. Um, she has all these amazing custom-made pedals that I wouldn't even know the names of. Um, and yeah, she has people who are fans of her playing who make her pedals. So um, she's quite lucky that way. And the Duncan Thornley, the producer, he plays the studio. He had all of these old kind of reel-to-reel tape machines, Echoplex, all these effects things from that aren't digital and just lovely. So he would use those to kind of augment the songs and bring them out a bit.
Have you guys, I guess before you met Subjangle Records, were you guys obviously doing it on your own? I guess
Mhm.
who was doing the studio work at that time?
So every Evan is a graphic artist, so he would do the cover art, and I would do all the reaching out to people like you to let people know about it. Yeah, so it was independent, um, and there's a great network. I mean, I heard about you because you interviewed. Oh no, I'm forgetting his name. The Pump It guy, Tuesday Pump. Um, he
Yeah,
has a he
Tucker.
has yeah, really really nice guy. So I saw that you had spoken with him, and so that's why I reached out to you. But I mean, there's a whole network of people out there now who are talking about music and meeting each other. So it can be done. Just not much money in it.
Like thy will be done. So
Yes, thy stubbornness will be done. Yes.
basically, yeah. I guess when you guys were doing your own music, I guess what sort of I guess computer program were you using? Were you using like a Logic, Ableton?
So we go to a proper studio called uh, Map Studio Cafe in near Camden, and Duncan, the producer, like it's amazing the stuff he has. Uh, the if I if I ever record anything myself, it's on my phone, and then I just WhatsApp it. That's as high tech as I get. So if I could go back to the old, 4-track tape machine, I would just be so happy. I miss those days. You could do a lot of cool stuff with that.
I guess how did it work with a 4-track machine? Was it just a little bit easier just to record? Because I just thought nowadays it's
Yeah,
just
well, the cool thing was if the tape actually became thin enough, you could do effects on the other. You could flip the tape over, do effects on that, like almost like backwards effects or things like that, and it would you could kind of hear it on on the front side of the tape. So you could do stuff like that. You know, I think Street Fighting Man he recorded it on 4-track. Keith Richards recorded. Um, and it was about that big. It was really easy. So yeah, it was. But these days you can do anything you want, right? You just have to buy a plug-in or something. You know,
basically that's how it works. So
yeah, auto tune.
yeah, I did actually forget to ask this, and it kind of goes back to COVID, but I guess how has the music scene been as well as like studio wise? I guess before and after COVID.
So I think that in London, um, I think that there were more live bands. I think that venues closed, but I do think that there were a lot of bands that started writing songs because they were in lockdown and then said, "Hey, let's release this," as you say, on Spotify. I think there's a lot more of that kind of action of people releasing things. Um, there there are promoters in London who are quite mercenary, and they really take advantage of new bands or young bands who don't really know, how to get a show, and they'll require you to bring an audience. And they call themselves promoters, but they don't promote anything. All they have is a relationship with a venue that basically is making money off beer sales. And so the band, struggles to bring out their friends as many as they can, and you got to bring out more and more people the bigger place you want. It doesn't mean, and you're only as good as your last show. So in reaction to that, in the last year or so, there's been a movement of bands forming their own kind of promotion group and promoting their like organizing their own shows, skipping the promoters, and that's been great because there's no it's supportive. They don't say you have to bring 40 people or you have to bring 100. There's none of that, and they'll do what they call all dayers, which I think is a nice reaction to the mercenary promoters are still out there, still taking advantage of 18-year-olds or whatever. But I think that's a nice movement that they're indie bands anyway. You're not going to make any money, so why are we making such a hard deal about this? Let's just play. If it's a restaurant with a PA, let's do it. Getting back to that kind of more collegial, people enjoying each other's music, because a lot of it, you play your half hour, your friends are there, and it's like a train station. It's like everybody gets on the train and leaves. Next band, next group, people, leave. And it's just not any fun when you're the next band and you just watch 40 people leave the boat. It just sucks. You're like, well, so you learn to get on the stage really fast, like up, 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 go, before people can start going out the door and get their cigarette. First chord, let's start playing and play nearly your best song on the first song. Let's keep them here. So I think getting away from that kind of competitive stress could be a good thing.
I'm gonna say it definitely adds to the stress. Just trying to be like, wait, get it back on the stage. We gotta get out there and just perform for all these people right now. Wait.
So you learn to have as few pedals as you can. Have all your cables ready. The drummer is always the guy who's like, he's always screwing something in, right? So I've learned, okay, let's do like a cappella or acoustic song while let's start playing, and he can still be fiddling with stuff, but let's just go. And when he's able to come in, then he'll come in, make it part of the show. But otherwise, when a room that was full suddenly becomes empty, it can really suck.
Then the whole morale and everything starts dipping down and everything there too. It's like, no,
yeah, come back.
Wait, come back. This is cooking class. Come back.
Oh, they'll party. Yeah, right. They'll party is kind of like, well, if that's where you are, please go. I don't really want to play for you, but yeah.
I just wait. We have a discount on beer. Come back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I just start checking out the T-shirts immediately. Free gifts. Yeah.
I guess so. And I guess maybe that can also tie in with like social media these days as well as AI. But your one friend who's a graphic artist, does he use AI to bring the art out and everything, or does he kind of do his own little artistic
he's old
style?
school. I mean, of course, he uses digital softwares, but no, I think he might find if he finds images, it's found images. I think he would get sick at the idea of using AI, but I think it's I think there's so many opportunities to have a famous actress turn into a lizard in the middle of your video. That could be kind of cool. So I whatever is creative, I think it's, if I can have an opinion about it, I think it's if you give up your creativity to the software and you're not even, if there's no part of you in it, then I think that defeats the purpose, right?
In other words, a slave to the machine. We wanted to say
right?
that.
Yeah, I mean, what part did you have in this? I feel the same way about auto-tune, but maybe I'm just cranky. I don't know.
We're still old school on everything about it too. So
you should be able to sing.
I don't know about auto-tune, but I mean, if it does help in terms of like the instrument-wise, I would say that's probably a good thing. But I think if it's,
sure,
as you said, just doing all that with the music, then okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I think having your guitar in tune can be nice for some people. I don't think it's always necessary, but
yeah, I guess, do you think it's almost like the Terminator thing slowly taking over, that sort of deal?
with the music, I mean, it's so tough. You try so hard. I believe that our music is pretty good, and so it's a little bit like you want to serve a really nice meal for your friends. I really just want to serve a meal and have people hear it. It's not even like an ego thing. I'm like, hey, I think this is pretty good. You should try it too. These are really good Doritos. But it's really hard to just get people to spend 3 minutes. I don't know if you've noticed this, but at least with London rap, they have this lo-fi London rap where the first 15 seconds is going to be the same riff through the entire song. So if you're on Spotify, if they're proposing songs to you and you're skipping songs, if you like that first 15 seconds, you're liable maybe to listen to the rest of the song, And I think that there's no progression in the music, but that's good because you didn't want it in the first place. You just wanted that 15-second riff. So I think it's quite hard if maybe you're going to develop a song, or it's got to be tight.
I'll say that's how they get you. The whole thing with the reeling.
Yes, exactly. I mean, fair enough. Hooks are hooks, but yeah.
I guess. So I guess we'll have to see what happens. I guess. Do you know if maybe the UK is trying to address this whole thing with the AI slowly taking over?
Very good question. I don't know. It's certainly not as contentious as it is in the States right now. You don't hear it in the news, like people trying to advocate for or against it. It's also a very different entertainment market in the UK because so much of it is funded by the government. BBC is partially funded. Bands get grants from the government. So I've often wondered if that's why there's so many good bands that come out of the UK, is actually they have a little bit more support than they might in a place where there were no tax dollars giving them $1,000 grant, So I don't know if the government is thinking about those things.
At least not yet. So
Not yet.
I guess are they considering maybe banning TikTok because looks like the states are getting ready to ban it here pretty soon.
I haven't heard anything about it. I know that there was a big issue about, I think, some kind of Chinese software or something like that being used in the UK, and people were worried about that, the privacy of it and security of it. But no, TikTok's not really a story here yet. I wish it were. It's horrible. Yeah.
Because what social media do you guys use to help promote yourselves?
I think Instagram, Facebook is still an interesting way to tell us a bit more story, like text, or link it to like a show like yours. I think though Instagram, people scroll through Instagram. TikTok, I think it's if you have real content like playing live or talking to them or something to active. So that I think that requires actually more effort. Instagram, I think you can get away with a little bit more, but you got to have some pretty cool images. You can't just have throwaway pictures. So yeah, I think every musician these days has to start becoming a graphic artist these days, or a PR specialist. It's a lot more work than just like making a photocopied text flyer, that you draw with your markers and post on a tree, outside the club.
I guess. But I think that ties in here with the next question too. Would you say that's maybe a challenge you guys face these days? Or I guess what are challenges do you feel like you guys face as musicians?
Well, you actually cannot photocopy something and staple it to a tree in London. It's illegal. So you can't do that kind of, yeah. Yeah. And they'll find you, right? Because, I mean, you put your band name there and they'll know where you're playing, so they can find you if you're going to do that. Kind of homegrown street advertising, unless you go into a punk rock record LP store, that's harder. The so-called promoters don't promote. We don't really have like a LA Weekly or kind of a classifieds newspaper that you might see gigs in. So I think there are a lot of barriers to getting the word out. So I think it's a lot of it is about getting into a community of people who like music and want to see it. Camden is great because you have classic venues, like in that Amy Winehouse movie. I mean, that place where she's playing pool, it's called the Good Mixer, and they have gigs every like 3 times a week that are free. And you play in the corner, and there's one sound guy, and you have like 1 amp, but you can still be part of a community, and that place is wild. I mean, you got punks and tourists and homeless people and jocks and whatever in that place coming in and out because it's free. So it's a really there is still kind of a music scene that's kind of do or die, I guess.
Yeah. No. Should we say DOD? Maybe that's what she do or die. So yeah. Is that like
Or does
SMS now?
DOA? I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think it's more about getting in and finding the right bands, playing with them, finding people who might be open to what you're doing, um, and just not having any expectations that you're going to make any money or anything. Just do it because you really want to.
That's what you say. Is that your bit of advice for the musicians out there?
Yeah, yeah. And if you want it that bad, then good luck because you're going to want it probably your whole life, and not going to get any easier. But hopefully, you find some good people like I did, and you can record something that you're proud of, and maybe someone like you will hear it and think it's cool too.
So hip, that the whole deal. So yeah, it's a new hip of these days, we wanted to say.
Okay.
So yeah. All right. Thanks so much for sharing there, Dave. Really does mean a lot. So,
Thank you.
well, Dave, we did. Dave brings through the questions. You're pretty good. So here, let's get into some extra fun ones. Ready?
All right, hit me.
So I'm a little curious outside of the fish and chips, because I know we talked about that earlier, if there's a particular dish we don't know about from London, but as well as curry, because I know people always talk about curry. So what would you say is currently your favorite food to kick it off?
Favorite food? My wife's an Italian, so she's an amazing cook. Uh, so she makes carbonara, which is basically just eggs and bacon on pasta. So yeah, but for dinner.
For dinner only. And then that's a leftover lunch afterwards for the next day. So yeah.
There's no leftovers. I'm sorry. It's yeah. That's how I decided to marry her. She made me carbonara for the first time, and I was like, oh,
You know she's the one.
she's the one. I think I'll stick with this.
Yeah, then he ran off with her afterwards. So yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
that's how it went. Actually, I always thought carbonara was always it's a variety of dishes, right? You can obviously mix stuff, or does it always have like the little bacon bits and an egg?
No, that's basic. Yeah, that's basics. And cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, does she do a mean pizza as well as any other pastas? Because I think that's
Oh,
normally
she
what
does
Italians are
everything
known
stuff.
for.
Risotto. Yeah, everything. Frankly, I mean, and she likes to cook, so it's a pleasure. Yeah.
She's your own little Gordon Ramsay in a way. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's great. Yeah, it's hard to keep the weight off.
He was like, score! Yeah. All right. Great choice there, nonetheless. And a good catch, too, mate. It's a good catch.
I know, right? Yeah, she's making fish soup right now. So yeah.
That's why we're breezing through this real quick. He's like, I could smell it. So yeah. There. It's all good, though, too. All good. But for the next one right here, I know a bunch of TV series that come out of like the UK, for instance. Most of them are crime dramas, which my mom really gets into
Yeah.
a lot. But
Right.
what would you say is your favorite movie? And if you have a favorite TV series you'd like to share, go ahead.
Uh, Favorite movie is 8.5 by Fellini. TV series. Because it's been dark and cold here, my wife and I rewatched Game of Thrones, so we're on season 5 now. He just squeezed the guy's and crushed the guy's head. That was the last thing we saw. So then she couldn't go to bed. Yeah, so very nerdy, but Game of Thrones. Yeah.
You've been disappointed when it gets to season 8 again.
Oh man, I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, it's because he didn't. Have you read the books? Because he didn't get that far. They just made that stuff up. Yeah, that's why.
I think he gave him the ideas. And I think
Yeah.
that's why he backed out of it, because it's like that was actually the ending I was shooting for, to say the least. It is slightly
Yeah,
different,
John.
but it was like still
Yeah.
going to happen that way. So, yeah. It's almost like, dude, you had at that point 10 years, which now I think it's now 14. So,
Right. Yeah, he had a lot of time to think about it, right? They could have pulled something together. But a couple of British shows, if people haven't seen them, one, The In-Betweeners, hilarious teen show. Two, The Alan Partridge Show, really, really funny, dry humor. And three is Peep Show. So Peep Show, actually, it has the song that opens it is Evan's song, which was really weird because I was really into the show, and all of a sudden there's a song. Um, But those three, In-Betweeners, Ellen Partridge Show, and Peep Show. Then because British humor is all about being embarrassed and feeling awkward. That's what I've realized because they feel embarrassed a lot. That's a huge part of daily life.
Like I could say they've been embarrassed since 1776. So,
There you go. All right.
oh,
Yes.
yeah, we'll always rip on them for that.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. I think someone was saying like last night they were like in. I thought they were like saying some sort of pub. I don't think it was in London or somewhere, but I think they had like these English people and they were chanting. I think they were like extremely drunk, for instance, and they're singing the Star Spangled Banner. And there's these English people over here. We're just looking at it funny.
Yeah.
Man.
They call it a National Betrayal Day. Yeah, it's a joke.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So, so, actually, my mom, she really gets into a lot of the things with Midsummer Murders is one,
Yeah.
and I know Shedland was another one, but that's more like north up towards Scotland there.
Oh, she'd be happy here. That's BBC all day. Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she fit in just right.
Oh, she
So,
would. Yeah. Just sit in front of the TV. Wouldn't you have to change the channel?
that's for sure. All right. For the next one right here, I'm not too sure if you do drink any alcohol, but if you do, what would you say is your favorite alcoholic drink? And then what's your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Scotch. Luckily, I'm close to Scotland. Really, really expensive Scotch because you only need that much. You drink too much more, you start hallucinating. So, yeah. Peaty Scotch. It used to be vodka when I lived in the Soviet Union, but yeah, now it's Scotch. A little bit better for you.
I was like, what's the non-alcoholic one?
Non-alcoholic? I guess cappuccino now because I have to drink it every day. Sometimes before I'm even out of bed, it's like being shoved in my face, you know. So you haven't drank your coffee yet. First of seven. Yeah.
I'll say, is that also courtesy of the wife prepping that for you?
I never drank coffee and now I'm addicted. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So espresso, 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 espresso. Yeah. Not complaining.
Okay. I was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. So, yeah. Actually, did you used to travel to the Soviet Union at times here too? That's pretty interesting.
I was in the Peace Corps in Kazakhstan. Yeah, so drank a lot of vodka because that's kind of how you socialize. Um, yeah, and it was during a time when there were no utilities. People had no jobs. They were killing themselves. It was a really dark time. Um, so it made me a little bit tougher.
That's basically why they wanted to break away. So yeah,
Yeah, right.
scary stuff.
Yeah.
So, I guess thank you so much for what you do. Are you still in the Peace Corps these days, or have you moved on?
I'm a director of a humanitarian charity that does medical relief and like war zone relief. So we're in Gaza. I frequently go to Afghanistan or East Africa. Um, yeah, that's my job during the daytime. So I think music is my way to decompress. It's probably why I write lyrics about Dante's Inferno and stuff. So.
Because in a way, we were in Dante's Inferno. When you think about it. So,
Yeah.
actually, I was going to say it is like the Clark Kent because he did have glasses on early and he took them off. So
Yeah, that's right.
that's why you know he was getting serious. So yeah. Yeah. But all jokes aside and everything too. Thank you so much for what you do, Dave. It does
You're
mean a
really
lot.
kind to say that. Thank you. Yeah, it's rewarding in and of itself. It can be a bit depressing sometimes when countries for decades are struggling. That can be hard to watch, but it's very inspiring to meet people who are creative and dedicated nonetheless.
That's for sure. I want to touch base on that in just a second here too, but let's finish up the fun questions right here. So
Okay.
now this one might put you on the spot, but let's see what you got. So what would you say is currently your favorite song? If you want to list one from mainstream and then one from the independent community, feel free to share. And then if you're having trouble with naming just one song, you can do a list of band.
What's that Taylor Swift song? And I'll write your name. I gotta. Anyway, that one. is, if we were going to call it mainstream, it's like 10 years old already, right? I just think she's an amazing songwriter, regardless of all the hype. Um, and then not mainstream, uh, Two-Headed Boy by Neutral Milk Hotel. That whole album, if you Neutral Milk Hotel, is just it's one of those. It's like Pet Sounds, where you listen to the whole album. And do you know that album?
Not too familiar with it. No.
It's so great. It basically, he recorded it with his friends, but they have kind of like this dirgy New Orleans horn section and crazy drummer, and he's playing his acoustic guitar with songs that he wrote. Um, and it just has such a spirit to it. And his lyrics are very, very interesting. He writes about Anne Frank and all sorts of things. So very, very cool. So yeah, Two-Headed Boy. I just think it's a very it's almost like you're standing in a curio shop and you're looking at this jar with a fetus, like a two-headed fetus, and he's singing to the fetus and what his thoughts about it, which doesn't sound like a great song, but it's really good.
The initial concept doesn't sound like a good idea, but
He makes it work. Yeah, yeah.
well, it's almost like the Smashing Pumpkins, size me
Yeah,
three.
right.
So I mean, that's how it is. Yeah, so, probably that sort of deal. But all right,
I saw
of
them
course.
with Weezer about 5 months ago in London. Yeah, they had a massive light show. It was really good light show. Yeah, it was almost as good as the music.
Yeah, I would say last night's show with Silverstein. They did like these screens right here, which I found a little distracting because of the way how bright
Yeah,
they were at times. I
yeah.
was like, thank God I don't have epilepsy because I'd probably be dead right now. So
They
still
were
great
just
show
getting the
nonetheless. You
moshing.
too. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that and the moshing. There was plenty of
yeah.
moshing. The great choices there nonetheless. You too. Just real quick before we jump into the last question, what sort of work are you doing these days? Are you guys working pretty extensively with Gaza? Because it seems like that one's the one dominating the news.
We are one of the only organizations providing trauma care for last year. We kept having to move hospitals because bullets were flying through the ER. I mean, really, really dangerous work. Um, uh, so it's called International Medical Corps, and so working in these pretty violent places where the health system breaks down, but people still need all the way from just like their diabetic pills, just basic stuff, because to reproductive birthing care, to making sure a kid doesn't starve to death, to all the way to something like Gaza, where you have mass casualty incidents, like 30 people coming in needing amputations at a time. Really, really, really hardcore stuff. I didn't go to Gaza myself, but Ebola, really, really gory things that the people in the countries are trying to do something about, but they don't always have all the resources. So that's kind of where we come in and support them.
I guess is there a site or anywhere people can go to maybe donate or maybe help out in any sort of way?
Yeah, that's very nice of you. It's International Medical Corps, CORPS, and they're actually providing medical care and uh, we call them hygiene kits, but basic kits in LA to families that were displaced, especially like Altadena. Um, I think they're working in a stadium where people are in shelter, providing healthcare. So yeah, you can see the International Medical Corps website. You can see what they're doing in LA right now.
That's for sure. Though we could say that's an actual Dante's Inferno when we think about it. So yeah,
Man, horrible, horrible.
that's for sure. But
Yeah,
thank you so much for
yeah.
what you do there, mate. So
Oh,
you heard it from this guy right here too. So
thank you, thank you.
okay. We are down to one more question on my podcast, and I think maybe you can tie it in with that
All
there
right,
too. But
okay, okay. See if I can do it.
just real quick, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say
Yeah, how
before we
did you
jump into?
start this? I mean, this is such a cool show. Like,
Actually, it started way back because of COVID, actually, and I kicked off my YouTube channel just doing drum covers at one
yeah,
point. Actually, I
yeah.
was covering a whole lot of the death metal coming out of the UK too, which was like Bolt
Huh.
Thrower and a little bit of Napalm Death. But because of the fact it's such a saturated market doing ASR covers or anything here too,
Yeah, yeah.
I decided to branch out doing podcast interviews, which
Yeah.
started off with just drummers, and actually a good number of them actually come out of the
Really?
UK. So
Huh.
then eventually it got to like the independent artists because of Box and Sticks. They told me about their little Facebook group band together. Then afterwards, it was like just finding people on Facebook and maybe a couple from Instagram, but
Yeah,
basically the rest is history after that.
that's cool. It's amazing how things kind of evolve. I was going to say snowball, but I mean it evolves over time into something that is focused and you really want to do.
I think the snowballing effect is always like a bad thing whenever you think
Yeah,
about
exactly.
it.
That's why that sounded a bit bad. Yeah, so maybe less snowballing rather than maybe more laser focus. I would say, finding your way.
I don't know about laser focus. I think I've seen people use the laser ones like that's their deal right there from X-Men. So
Yeah.
yeah. I get what you mean there too. So thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Anything else?
No, I just think it's really cool when people start these things because I mean it's a great way to meet people, but it's also such great opportunity for the people you talk to too.
That's for sure. So met a lot of interesting people along the way here too, including yourself.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
But there's no other questions. Here's how the last one goes. So, given what COVID has done, obviously, it seemed you were pretty blessed. I know you maybe caught it maybe here and there, and maybe it was a bit more mental of anything here too, considering how you said the lockdowns went. For those people who have been impacted by COVID, or basically any other sort of events, because I know you said you work with people in Gaza, maybe not directly, but at least more so virtually in a sort of way, or maybe over the phone. But what's sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there so they can try to move forward with their lives?
Mm. I think there are a lot of good people in the world, um, and they're always ready to help other people. Um, and that's never going to go away. When things are bad, that's when we often find out who those people are, or it's ourselves. And seeing these horrible times as opportunities for us to kind of step up or be what we can be, and help each other. I think that feels really good. It's one of the nicest feelings you can have to uh, be the person you want to be and also help other people. So yeah, times may get tough, but we can also see it as an opportunity to better ourselves and help each other.
Spoken like a true prodigy. Always got to drop that Pulp Fiction quote. So, but nonetheless, thank you so much for what you do today, Dave.
Thank you, man.
It does mean
Thank
a lot.
you for this.
All right. We have reached the end of my podcast right here. We just talked a little about over an hour right here, but I guess got any final words? Want to give any shout outs before we close?
This is great. Let me know what you guys think of the album. OpenFlames.com, Open Flames on Instagram, Open Flames on Facebook. Really love to know what people think. So please reach out. And whoever knows Rime of the Ancient Mariner, free CD.
All right. Just to fill in the audience, if you haven't checked it out, make sure to also leave down in the comments who the author was who wrote Rime in the Ancient Manner. You can easily Google it, and you get a free CD from this guy right
Free
here.
CD.
All right, sounds good. I guess just real quick, got any plans outside maybe releasing some new material? I guess got any shows or anything coming up in the year 2025?
We would like to do some showcase shows, maybe Paris, New York, DC. So yeah, 2025 could be a fun year. Yeah.
Make sure to work on your kissing this time whenever you go to Paris. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And just real quick for the audience, what social media and streaming platforms are you guys on so they can check you guys out and maybe interact?
TheOpenFlames.com is the website, but really Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You're not supposed to like Twitter anymore. Blue Sky. Just look up the. Yeah, exactly. X. Yeah. I guess it was intentional. Look up the Open Flames or the Open Flames Band. Also, the handle same time next year. That's the name of the album.
I think I get why they do the X. So it was like, don't come here. So,
Yeah, basically.
I guess.
Yeah.
But, all right.
It worked.
That's some sort of way it worked.
Yeah.
All right.
Success.
All right. But to close out like this, everyone, my guest today was Dave Eastman. He's hailed from the lovely country of the UK. also close to London, we should say, close to somewhere where Big Ben is at least visible. So, as part of the band, the Open Flames. So make sure you go hit them up on all socials, all streaming platforms. And from here about some new music and tunes coming out here pretty soon. So make sure you keep your eyes open for it here too. So, and also, he's also doing some work in humanitarian right here. So you also heard where his website is. So feel free to donate. Whatever you can do to help out these people here too. So every little bit helps. So Dave, once again, thank you so much for what you do there, mate. So you keep doing what you're doing right there in the humanitarian world. But you stay safe in the music world, at least. Let's hope it stay safe. But stay safe. Rock on. Stay
Thanks,
tuned.
man. It's been a pleasure.
No worries. I need a quick pose.